Hey guys, it was really good to hear from some of y'all. Some of y'all have been joining into the meetings that we've been doing on Mondays, and I've really been enjoying getting to talk to y'all and getting to hear how y'all are doing. But for those of y'all that are just chiming in and listening to the video meetings, that's fine too. So today's lesson is about text structure and how it affects the narrative of the story, how it shifts back and forth. In a nonfiction book, like what we're reading, Unbroken is nonfiction. Nonfiction, of course, means that it's real and that it's factual. It's a true account. But the thing with nonfiction books is that they're going to have two different things within them, two different structures within them. They're going to part of the time be telling a story, which is a narrative, and then the other part of the time they're going to be giving you facts, which is informational. So what the story is going to do, and you've probably noticed this already, but the story is going to shift back and forth. At some parts, it's going to be story, story, story. It's going to be telling Louie's story. And then it's going to flip and give you some information. When it flips over and gives you information, the structure has shifted. It shifts from story and narrative to information. What I want you to be able to do is notice those shifts, because inside the shift between the two, there's going to be a central idea that's given. Anytime that it goes from story to information, there's going to be a central idea that's given to you. So that's what the lesson is, that readers can notice informational and narrative reading strategies and use them flexibly. Notice that the stories that they read are a mix of both, and draw on appropriate thinking to get the most out of those complex parts. I'll give you an example, okay? I won't read this to y'all, but this will be your example. In Hidden Figures, the story about the African American women who helped launch people into space, this first part is talking about Dorothy, the main character. She's filling out paperwork. She's getting sworn in. It tells what she says. It says that she took the pledge seriously. So all of those, is that informational or is that telling us a story? It's telling us a story. It's telling her what she's thinking, what she's feeling, what she's saying. So all of that would be story. It'd be narrative. But then the next paragraph, and this is where it gets interesting. The next paragraph is facts. It tells about the lab where she works. It tells about where it's located. It tells about the number of buildings growing. It tells about the lab expanding. It tells about the forest near the lab. It's giving you all these facts. It's giving you statistics, dates, numbers, facts. So it shifts. It goes from telling Dorothy's thoughts, feelings, any of that stuff, over to facts. So you have to notice when that story shifts, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you a central idea. So now I've got an example for you that I do want us to read. This is from Unbroken, where the story shifts. It shifts from story, which is this first part, to facts, and it gives us a central idea. Okay, so if you look in this first part of the story, I'm going to try and read it at a weird angle, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so I'll start in the second paragraph. After sunrise, Louie and Phil got the news the plane was missing. They rushed to Kauai and walked the beach looking for any sign of their friends. A slip of paper washed ashore. It was a paycheck made out to Mosnetti. Later that morning, the plane was found lying in the ocean floor just offshore, and all 10 crewmen were dead. The plane had barely made it past takeoff, clearing the runway, turning and slamming into the water. Several men had tried to swim to shore, but the sharks had found them. The men were, Louie wrote in his diary, ripped to pieces. Louie was shaken. He'd been in Hawaii for only 2 months, yet already several dozen men from his bomb group, including the 16 men in his barracks, were dead. That right there, my friends, all that part right there is telling you Louis' thoughts, feelings, telling you the story in order. That story. But then, when you move to the middle part, we get, we go from telling a story to giving some information. So let's look at the middle part. Okay, so it says, the first loss came from the flight from the States when a B-24 vanished. Then the plane caught fire and crashed, killing 4 men. Another plane hit a mountain, killing several aboard. A bomber crash-landed, killing 2. Another exploded in midair. Only 3 men survived, including the one whose hand happened to be resting on a parachute when the blast flung him from the plane. The plane photographing Wake had been shot down. Then Mazzanetti's crash. So we're still story, but then if you look in the green, it shifts from story to facts. These crashes, only one caused by enemy action, weren't unusual. In World War II, some 36,000 Army Air Force planes were lost in combat and accidents. The surprise is how many were lost in accidents. In 1943, in the region in which Louis served, for every plane lost in combat, some 6 planes were lost in accidents. In the war, almost 36,000 airmen died in non-combat simulations, the vast majority of them in accidental crashes. So it's telling you, it shifts. It's not talking about Louis in that section. It shifts from a story to informational. So then what you have to do is think, why did the narrator shift from telling us a story to giving us facts? The reason is to give us the central idea of this section. It's giving us facts for a central idea. So you have to think, for the central idea, you've got the 5 questions, the who, what, when, where, why. Okay? The who of that section was the planes. What was happening to those planes? They were crashing in accidents. Where? In World War II. When did this happen? When they were in combat. So, and then the why is the author's purpose. So you put all of those together and you create a central idea of the author informs readers that most airplane crashes weren't caused by enemy action. So, main focus of this lesson. Notice where the story shifts from story to information. Once it shifts to information, it's going to give you a central idea. It's your job to find that central idea with the who, what, when, where, and why strategy. You ask yourself those 5 questions. And then you find yourself details from that paragraph. So you would have to find details from here that support that. So what I did was I looked here and I noticed the shift. I did my who, what, when, where, why, and then I created a central idea sentence. So I said that the narrative shifts to informational, and it shows this central idea. It shows that most airplane crashes were not caused by enemy action. And then I gave 4 pieces of evidence from that section that proved it. So that's the main meat of my lesson today, is that you watch for those shifts, and once it shifts from story to informational, to find that central idea that's given. So your homework or your assignment for the week is, as you read this week, you've got 4 chapters. You've got 14, 15, 16, 17. So 4 chapters to read. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to fill out lesson 4 assignment. It shouldn't take too terribly long. But what you're going to do is you're going to write down 2 different places where you see a shift from story to information. You're going to have to find the central idea in each of those sections where it shifts. And then you're going to have to give 2 or 3 pieces of evidence that show where that shift has happened. So your answers should look very similar to what I did. So to what I did right here. So you're going to find the central idea of that, where the story shifts from story to information. and then you're going to give supporting details to prove it. And if y'all have any questions, please feel free to comment or send me a message on Remind or on email. But miss you guys, and I will talk to y'all soon.